Yo guys, Mike for Sim Racing 604, and this is my Ferrari 488 GT3 wheel from Thrustmaster. This is the newest wheel from Thrustmaster that's compatible with both their T818 direct drive wheelbase as well as a number of legacy Thrustmaster wheelbases. It's an exciting product and fills a void in the Thrustmaster ecosystem that I thought needed to be filled, so I'm excited to review this. Let's get into it. Alright, so let's talk about the Ferrari 488 GT3 wheel. Just before we get started, I will let you know this was sent to me for free for review. No money changed hands, I don't offer affiliate links, and all of the words and opinions are my own. So this has a retail price of $250 US and is available now, and it is compatible with both the current generation T818 direct drive wheelbase that Thrustmaster is basically centering their ecosystem around, and is also compatible with legacy wheelbases. So it does include, let me get this open up here. So you have this is the screw-on style quick release also included. So this module in the back, the wheel ships without a module, but this centerpiece here is a module that has 4 screws. The screws are included, as is an Allen key. If I were to back those off, I could take this whole quick release module out, put this one on, and then this wheel becomes compatible with T300, TX, TS, XW, TGT2, or TGT, and the TSPC Racer. So very cool that they make it compatible with both direct drive and the legacy belt drive wheelbases, so very cool. And again, all that is included, so yeah, very cool that if you're in the Thrustmaster ecosystem, odds are this will work. So what do we have here? Well, mostly plastic on the back. You can see it's almost all plastic. It does have magnetic shifters, but the only other metal you'll find is the actual face of the wheel. It's a carbon fiber cladding on top of a metal face. So, yeah, it's fine. The grips are rubber, kind of a solid grippy rubber. The grips feel really good, but if you're expecting an all-metal wheel, this is not it. Keeping it at that $250 US price point, I suspect, is one of the drivers for using this much plastic, but it doesn't feel cheap. It's a very solid feeling wheel, and probably when I get into the driving portion, if you see any flex, it'll be in the rig, because the Thrustmaster quick release is actually very good and holds on very solid. So I'll be using the T818, so I've got this quick release. Just slide it on, flip a latch over, and then you're good to go. It connects. It's got its pins on the back here, and so there's no wireless anything to do. Looking at the face of it, you can see it has a lot in common with the 488 GT3 and GT3 Evo. Is there an Evo 2 now? I can't recall. Wheels. And across the front we have a number of buttons. I won't list them all, but radio, flash, marker, launch, scroll, drink. We have a bunch across there. How many buttons? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 buttons, 2 rotary dials across the bottom here, one marked mix, the other marked map. And then we have these. Now, when I first opened this, I thought, well, they've just gone a weird direction here. Those should be rotary dials. In fact, that's not true. Look at the 488 GT3 wheel when you get a chance, and they're not rotary dials. You can go up and down with it, which is very interesting. And then you have this guy here, which goes side to side and up and down. So good for scrolling menus while you're in your sim. And then across the top, probably hard to see, there are 4 lights, and those will light up depending on when you have your pit limiter enabled, etc., etc. But that functionality is going to vary by sim. So that is broadly what we have here, and of course the big Ferrari logo across the middle to kind of tie it all together. So it has a ton in common with the real-life 488 GT3 wheel, big Thrustmaster across the top, and then of course you flip it around and you got a bunch of plastic, and then Thrustmaster again. So it's not a perfect recreation of what you see in real life, but pretty darn close, especially for the sim world. So the diameter, I believe, is 300. Let me just quickly measure here. 300 indeed. So it's a comparatively large wheel. A lot of these GT wheels come in at 270. This one at 300 is quite large, so it feels, you know, realistic. It feels large, feels automotive, although, you know, looking at all plastic, you can tell it's not automotive. But overall, you know, the size is very good. So that is broadly the features of the Ferrari 488 GT3 wheel from Thrustmaster. So let's go ahead and get this onto my T818. I'm going to do some driving and then I'll come back to the bench afterward and give you my final thoughts. The good, the neutral, the bad of this new product from Thrustmaster. Alright, so here we are in the pits in Assetto Corsa, and it's time to test out the Ferrari 488 GT3 wheel from Thrustmaster. As you can probably tell, I've got it connected to my T818 base here. And as we hopefully safely join the track, we might see... There we go. There's another car. I'll let 1-2 cars go ahead. Nope, they don't want to go. Fair enough. Alright, so what are my impressions of the Ferrari 488 GT3 wheel? Well, overall, very, very good. I really like this. I like the shape of it. I like the sort of realistic nature of it, you know, having a one-to-one replica of what you're seeing in the game right now. I'm not sure if the camera's picking that up or not, but perfect match to what you see on screen in this 488 GT3 Evo mod. And yeah, it's very good. The size is good. The grips are comfortable. I'm racing with gloves right now, but you can certainly do it without gloves. It's just kind of I would categorize it as kind of a hard rubber. I don't know exactly what what these grips are made of, but very, very comfortable in your hands. I could absolutely see driving this for an endurance race, and yeah, just very nice. So it is, I like the size, but it is noticeably larger than a lot of my GT style wheels, so just be warned that if you're not somebody who likes using larger wheels when you sim race, that might be one possible drawback, but for me it's perfect. I like the realism of it. Again, very comfortable, nice button layout. Like you can see, my thumbs can easily reach anything I need to, including the I don't know what you'd call them, the switches, these kind of faux rotary dials that we have above our hands, and yeah, you can reach them easily with your thumb, so nothing's out of reach. The only thing you might have to reach for is if you're adjusting traction control or ABS or something like that and you have it mapped to one of these dials, but even that is very nicely laid out. The dial is big enough to where you can feel it, your hand's not going to slip off. So yeah, very good. They've done a very, very nice job with this wheel, I would say. Only drawbacks I have from racing with it thus far are these little, again, I don't know exactly what to call them, but the ones mounted at the top there, they do tend to rattle. If you have your force feedback turned up high enough, those things will rattle. Now, I'm racing with my default Assetto Corsa force feedback, and this is, you know, something I've put hundreds and hundreds of hours into, so I'm not doing it extra strong or extra weak for this video, but I'm getting no rattling whatsoever. However, if you are, I mean, I can't see you using this for rally or something like that, but depending on the sim, if it's got very sharp, you know, force feedback and a lot of staccato effects, you will hear these rattle. So it's kind of an unfortunate thing. There's just that little bit of play in them, and that becomes a rattle. Not sure if the camera's picking that up, but that can become a rattle depending on how high you have your force feedback. But you know what? It's a minor thing for me. Overall, I really like the look of it. You know, the faked carbon fiber, having that Ferrari logo there. The aesthetic is really nice. The comfort is really nice. So I really don't have much negative to say about this wheel. I think it's a very, very well executed wheel, and I think this is going to be you know, a big seller for them, quite frankly. It's one of my few sort of negative takeaways from the T818 review was that you know, the wheel lineup had not been developed yet to support it. Obviously Fanatec has their McLaren wheel, which is effectively the same thing. It's kind of an all-purpose GT3 wheel, or a GT wheel I should say, and you know, it's comes in at a good price, and it's something most users who would own a Fanatec product would be able to afford and enjoy, and I think that's what this is for Thrustmaster. I think it's a nicely designed wheel coming in at a reasonable price that should be most things to most drivers. So I think Thrustmaster has done an excellent job with it, and yeah, really enjoying my time with it. I have put in a lot of hours already. This is not an initial impressions video. This is I've had maybe not a dozen, but probably 8 hours, I would say, driving with it, and yeah, feels very good. I would probably have more hours if it weren't for EA Sports WRC, but yeah, the time I have spent in Assetto Corsa since has mostly been with this T818 and 488 GT3 combination, and yeah, just really loving my time with it so far. So as I say, I think they've done a great job with it, and feels very nice in game. So as I say, I think most users would really enjoy this, and I don't have a lot negative to say based on the impressions of driving. Alright, let's wrap it there, folks, and let's get back to the table, and I will give my final thoughts on the Thrustmaster, Thrustmaster EA, the Thrustmaster 488 GT3 wheel, and yeah, let's go ahead and do that now. Final thoughts of the Ferrari 488 GT3 wheel from Thrustmaster, and I will do my good, neutral, bad, same thing I always do. So starting with the good, what I like about it, first thing is the styling, the general styling. Having an official Ferrari branded product, very cool. I mean, it's something I now own, something from McLaren, something from Ferrari, and something from Porsche, or at least with their stamp on it, and it does add to that realism. There is something cool knowing that, you know, these top racing and automotive manufacturers are putting their stamp on products, and just overall it's a very nice design. It's cool to see that what you're driving in the sim is reflected in what's in your hand. So that's number one of things I like. And for number two, let's flip it around here. The magnetic shift paddles. As I say, not every manufacturer is going with this right now. You're still seeing a lot of non-magnetic shift paddles. I don't know what to call them, but the magnetics, again, I just feel like it's such a simple thing to add magnets, and Thrustmaster has done that, and the shift feel is very nice. So you're going to be doing a lot of shifting, obviously, if you own a wheel like this, and I think you'll be in good shape with the Thrustmaster. And the next one to talk about is the quick release system. So it ships with two. It ships with the screw-on style for your legacy wheelbases, but it also has this style that you're seeing here for the T818. So slide it on, flip a latch, and you're good to go. I do think that some manufacturers are making quick releases way too difficult these days. I will say no names, but yeah, some manufacturers I think just are missing the picture. The one that's doing it right, frankly, is Moza. They've always had solid, easy to use quick releases, but I would say Thrustmaster has also done generally a good job with this, and it's very easy to get the wheel connected, and bonus points for shipping the legacy QR with the wheel. Next thing in the good is the price, $250 US. It's not, unfortunately, a one-to-one competitor with the Fanatec and their McLaren wheel, but as far as, you know, wheels go these days, $250 US is not bad. Now, I know people will say, well, there's so much plastic on it, that's why they are able to keep it cheap. Maybe, but at the same time, it doesn't feel cheap. There's no flex in this. Like, if you saw any flex in my video, it's probably because my rig moves, because it's a motion rig. But generally, I would say this is a very solid feeling wheel, quite well made. $250 for a wheel like this, which is a good all-purpose wheel, I think is a reasonable ask. So I think they've done a good job with the price. And lastly, we would talk about the size of the wheel. Again, it's very, not very large, but it is bigger than what you might be used to. It's realistic to the 488 GT3 dimensions, so it feels like you're holding something solid. Is it automotive grade? No, there's a lot of plastic, but at the same time, it feels automotive because it's well built. There's no flex in it, and again, it feels very large in your hand, so it's that added layer of realism, just like that Ferrari logo that's going to give you that extra notch of realism. So too is the size of this Thrustmaster Ferrari 488 GT3 wheel. And moving now to the neutral things I'm just kind of okay with, and the buttons. So the buttons, good feel to them. Good feel, but the problem is you have things like full course yellow, which I don't know when you would use that in a sim. You do have pit, which is cool, radio, AC, flash. I mean, some of these you will use, but a lot of them I think most people won't be able to in their regular sim. So it's good because they've kept it realistic. It's not good because most of the functions don't translate to simulators. So it's nothing Thrustmaster has really done wrong. It would look maybe odd if they just randomly switch them out for other things, but common things like, you know, lights, and there's no ABS control. There's 2 traction control settings here, but no ABS control. So in the real life car, you have the center console, which has a bunch of buttons, but also the dash that sits behind the wheel also has a bunch of buttons on it for common functions like what I just mentioned. So unfortunately, it leaves this wheel in a place where, in order to be realistic, it's going to have to capture functions that you won't see in your simulator. So it's just kind of an unfortunate thing. Again, I don't think it's anything Thrustmaster did wrong, just kind of something to be aware of, that what you have labeled in the real world probably won't match your in-game function. And lastly, let's talk about the bad things I don't like. Number 1, can you hear that? Maybe you can. These rattle, as does this. So if you have your force feedback turned up quite high, if you're somebody who runs strong force feedback, you may hear those things rattling, and it can be quite annoying. Is it going to be louder than the sound of your simulator? Probably not. If you race with headphones, is it going to be a problem? Probably not. But at the same time, it would have been nice if they had just tightened this down a little bit before it left the factory so that it doesn't rattle. It's just kind of an annoying thing, and one of the few things about this wheel that feels quite cheap. So yeah, just not a fan of the final product here in terms of how these things rattle. But other than that, it's quite solid. The final thing in the bad is the software. So the Thrustmaster software, it's way too simple, and it would have been nice to be able to program these lights for common functions. In Assetto Corsa, I couldn't get them to do anything. They worked well in Automobilista 2, and there's another title I tried, sorry it's eluding me right now, but yeah, they do work for some sims, not all, but unfortunately you can't just go into a well-designed software and program it. You just are kind of at the mercy of the simulator. So I've never been a fan of the Thrustmaster software, and it's again sort of reared its head in this instance. All right, final thoughts on the 488 GT3 wheel. I think overall it's a really, really nicely crafted wheel. It's solid, the price is good, and it's a good all-around wheel. I think people who own the T818 and are looking for a good all-purpose everyday driving wheel will probably be happy with this. It has that extra bit of realism in a lot of cases, feels solid, feels comfortable, and really probably all most users would ever need in a wheel is captured here. So if you're in the Thrustmaster ecosystem, strong recommendation for me. Is this enough to recommend that you jump from other ecosystems so that you can own this? Probably not, realistically. It's a very good wheel. I really enjoy my time with it. This is my new go-to wheel for the Thrustmaster ecosystem. However, like I said, probably not worth the jump. I don't think you should give up your Fanatec gear just to drive this wheel. But if you are in the ecosystem, strong recommendation from me. Feels good, drives good, looks good, and overall great wheel. So thank you so much to Thrustmaster for sending me this wheel to review. Thank you to you for watching, and we will see you next time.